Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name, 888-589-8840. We saw in the last segment that Obamacare is literally killing people. You know, Sarah Palin talked about these death panels. Well, they're here. And Kevin Williamson's got a piece today. I'm going to take a couple of minutes to highlight some of the content of this piece, and then we are going to go to the phones. And what we're discovering, that not only does Obamacare kill people, but liberalism kills. Liberalism kills children. You think I'm exaggerating? I am not. The title of Kevin Williamson's piece is Progressivism Kills. That's just another word for liberalism. Kevin Williamson says, look, there's a lot of horror stories about Detroit. You got corrupt public institutions. You've got inept and corrupt leaders. You've got racial politics out of control. You have a non-existent economy. You've got riots. You have race-based attacks, physical attacks on people. They had to bring federal troops into that city 3 times. But he says this, the most horrific story may be that of the death of its children. Detroit, listen to this, Detroit has the highest child mortality rate of any American city, exceeding that of many parts of what we used to call the third world. The rate of death before the age of 18 in Detroit is nearly 3 times New York City's, and its infant mortality rate exceeds that of Botswana. The main cause of premature death among the children of Detroit is premature birth. A lot of that, by the way, triggered by abortion, because we know there's a link between abortion and subsequent premature deliveries. And remember, Detroit is largely black, so Planned Parenthood is all over the place there. They're looking for black babies to kill in their abortion clinics. I mean, it's genocide. Planned Parenthood conducting genocide in minority communities, and they've been successful in Detroit. So a lot of these women have an abortion, they have a second pregnancy, and they deliver the baby prematurely, and the baby does not survive. The second cause of death among children, premature death, is murder. Between 30 and 40 children are murdered in Detroit every year. It's so dangerous that parents now in the city of Detroit are actually arming their children. Parents are giving guns to their children for their own protection. You know, you've had this place governed by liberals now for decades and decades and decades. You've got almost 80% of Detroit's children are born out of wedlock. They're running out of hospitals. They're running out of grocery stores. You know, and Williamson's point is, what good does it do to have Obamacare? What good does it do to have Medicaid if there are no doctors and if there are no hospitals, if you got no place to take it? What good are food stamps when there's no food, where there are no grocery stores where you can actually go and use the food stamps? What good is it to have free schools if you got to send your own child to school with a gun? And Kevin Williamson says, look, Detroit is what Democrats do. The last Republican elected mayor of Detroit took office during the Eisenhower administration. So it's been run by Democrats since Eisenhower. And you still have some liberals out there, Ed Schultz, Melissa Harris Perry, trying to blame this on Republicans. That have been Republican policies in Detroit in 50 years. So this is clearly the result of liberal political philosophy being implemented. So you want to know why I'm a conservative? Because liberalism kills children. Very simply, that's why I'm a conservative. I'm a conservative because liberalism kills children. All right, let's go to the phones. Let's go to Glen, Valley Springs, Arkansas. Glen, thanks for calling. Thanks for waiting. What's on your mind?
Hey, thanks, brother. The Super Bowl Coca-Cola issue.
Yes.
Yeah. You know, I'm going to take the other side. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. You know, the Super Bowl has the largest, I guess you'd say, and most captive audience around the world about anything. And as soon as I saw that, I thought, what a blessing that our country, the other countries, could know the words of this wonderful song praising God's blessing on our nation. What good would it do for them to hear it in a language that would be English that they don't understand? So I don't see the resistance to this at all. In fact, other than it just has to be just plain conceit.
Well, if you speak another language other than English, then everything in that song, Glenn, would be incomprehensible except the one phrase that was sung in Korean. You would have no idea what that ad was about. You would have no idea what that song was about. You'd have no idea what America is about. You'd be able to understand one little phrase out of that whole song.
True. That's true.
So I'm not sure how that accomplishes the purpose then.
Well, it's just that I don't understand why there's such resistance to it. It'd be like saying, in the day of Pentecost when Christians, were allowed to, or God let Christians proclaim his goodness in a language that others could understand.
Right, and they said, we heard them speaking of the mighty acts of God in our own language. So there was people, they could go. You'd have one guy standing over here on this corner. He's given the entire message of the gospel in a language that they can all hear, that they can all understand, not just a snippet that they can hear, and then the rest of it's gibberish, but they're hearing the wonders of God, the gospel, in their own language beginning to end. That's not what you had in that commercial.
Right.
Well, let me ask you this, Glenn. One last question before I let you go, because I got other callers I want to get to.
Yeah.
There has been this visceral reaction on the part of the American people to this ad. Now, I'm listening to you, Glenn, and I would have to kind of conclude that you think that there's something, I'm trying to think of the right word here, about the reaction of the American people to this ad, that there is something wrong with their reaction. There's something morally deficient about the reaction of the American people, that they are troubled by this ad. Means not that there's something wrong with the ad, but that there's something wrong with the American people. Is that the way you take it?
Yes, sir.
So you think there's something wrong with the American people. And what is it that is wrong with the American people?
I just don't know why we're not willing to share the goodness that God has blessed this country with in whatever language. Why keep it to ourselves?
Well, Glenn, are you aware that we provide legal immigration to over 1 million people every year from every corner of the globe? We are sharing the wealth, the abundance, the liberty, the values of America over 1 million times every year.
That's right.
And we're not withholding anything from anybody. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate the call, Glenn. Thank you for that. Let's go to James, Lake Charles, Louisiana. James, welcome. What's on your mind?
Yes. Actually, after I watched that ad, I'm so glad to hear the program talk about this today and that other people had a concern about it.
Uh-huh.
Because I could not believe that I was hearing, a song about America, one of the songs that we cherish being sung in other languages. And I was like, to me, it seemed like they're slowly trying to creep in other cultures and other languages being spoken in America. And sooner or later that no one almost speaks English in America anymore,
Yeah, well, it struck me, James. I've been to the museum in Atlanta, and I've gone to the Coke Museum, and they've got one giant room. I don't know if they still have it there because this was a few years ago, but they have a giant room where they've got fountain dispensers in all the different languages from around the world where Coke sells its products. So you can go and you can have the Coke label in Swahili or whatever it is all around the room, and you can sample whatever you want from all around the world. So that's fine. But if they're going to advertise Coke in Swaziland, they're going to advertise it in whatever they speak there. They're not going to advertise it in English because then nobody would be able to understand what it was they were selling. So, English is the language that we speak here. If you're going to advertise Coca-Cola in the United States of America, then do it in English. If you're going to sell it in Germany, then do it in German. We understand that. We appreciate that. But don't try to sell Coke to people in Germany by airing ads in Germany in Swahili. The German people, what good is that going to do to the German people?
Yeah, and it's sure the America the Beautiful. I mean, it almost, I hate to say it, I love other cultures and other nations, and I even want to do missions someday. But to hear the America the Beautiful being taken over by other languages, I don't know why it got to me. And whenever I was at a church function and I said something about it, and people act like I was being a hater, and I was like,
I know it. And you're not being a hater. You just love your country. and you're perfectly happy to have people from all around the world come to America, be able to enjoy the beauty of this country, but we want them to come and enjoy America, what it is, what it has to offer. We don't want people to come to this country and change it into something else, because then it won't be long before we've got nothing to offer people that they can't get in their own godforsaken corner of the world. I mean, the reason people come from all over the world to this land is because we have built a culture on Judeo-Christian values. We've built them around a common language. We've built them around a common set of understanding of spiritual truths, and that's what has made America the greatest nation in the world. Now, if we get rid of all that, we trash the Judeo-Christian values, we trash respect for Christianity, we trash the moral values of the Ten Commandments, we trash the concept of freedom, we trash the concept of liberty, we trash the concept of capitalism, we trash the concept of cultural unity through a shared language and shared values, then America is no different from any other place in the world that people are fleeing from like rats. So we want to preserve America, not just because we love America, not just because we love Americans, but because we love people from around the world, and we want those million people from around the world to experience what has made America great. So that's what this is about. It's not about hate. It's about love. All right, listen, I appreciate that. Thank you, James. And I just want to read an excerpt from Teddy Roosevelt's letter written in 1919. Listen to this. This is almost 100 years ago now. We should insist that if the immigrant who comes here does in good faith become an American and assimilates himself to us, he shall be treated on an exact equality with everyone else. For it is an outrage to discriminate against any such man because of creed or birthplace or origin. But this is predicated upon the man's becoming in very fact an American and nothing but an American. If he tries to keep segregated with men of his own origin and separated from the rest of America, then he isn't doing his part as an American. There can be no divided allegiance here. We have room for but one language here, and that is the English language, for we intend to see that the crucible turns our people out as Americans of American nationality and not as dwellers in a polyglot boarding house. Focal Point AFR Talk, back right after these messages.